After the break, Frank Lampard is with the Blues again, but will he have better luck coaching this time around? Tonight, policing the police. 90 officers with the Met are moved from fighting terrorism and serious crime to investigate their own colleagues. The Commissioner says he needs more powers to sack those with criminal convictions.
What we said to London was we were going to be deadly serious about looking back and sorting out the standards failures that we have, because I've got tens of thousands of great people, but we've clearly got some people who shouldn't be here.
Also ahead, getting away for the long weekend with warnings of disruption. We'll have the latest from Euston. Back with the Blues, Frank Lampard is confirmed as Chelsea's new manager. So what's his game plan this time? Plus,
you can try to resist, try to hide from my kiss, but
getting us foot tapping into the weekend, Adam Garcia is here to talk about his new show. Good evening. Instead of fighting serious crime or trying to foil terrorist threats, 90 Metropolitan Police officers are now investigating their own colleagues. It's the latest in a long list of plans from the new Commissioner to root out so-called bad apples in the force, officers with criminal convictions that range from drink driving to drug possession and even sexual assault. So Mark Rowley says he expects hundreds of officers to be removed over the next few years. Here's our political correspondent Simon Harris with the details.
Police stopping cars in Newham today, a routine bread and butter operation to try to prevent crime. But in 2023, it's not just criminals on the streets being targeted by the Met. The force is actively searching out the bad guys in its own ranks.
I think over the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to be removing hundreds of people from this organisation who shouldn't be here. We need to work through the investigations. People would expect fair process. We're bringing independent advisors in to make sure that we're not just marking our own homework. We've got other people looking over our shoulder and checking our judgments. But people will see hundreds going.
90,000 officers who would normally focus on counter-terrorism and serious crime are now investigating their colleagues. It's the biggest anti-corruption drive for 50 years, and it's already uncovered disturbing statistics. 161 serving police officers in the Met have criminal records. They include convictions for violence, dishonesty, sex offences, drink driving and possessing drugs. But under current police rules, the Commissioner can't sack any of them. Should anyone with a criminal conviction be allowed to be a police officer?
In exceptional circumstances, I think they should be.
What are they?
If the conviction was many moons ago for stealing some food to feed your family, you can understand why that may have happened some time ago.
Last month, a year-long investigation concluded the Met was institutionally racist, sexist and homophobic. Trust among the public is said to be at an all-time low. In 2019, Jan Mustafa's body was found in a freezer in Canning Town a year after her family reported her missing. She'd been murdered. Her cousin Aisha has little faith in the police.
Who will go to the police? Like, they're not trusted anymore. They're rapists, they're murderers, they're just as bad as the perpetrators. They should be the people we go to who we should trust, but a lot of families and people have lost that trust.
Voyage is a social justice charity in Hackney which tries to build better relationships between young people and the police.
Personally, I wouldn't say I have much trust in the police.
Basing off of the experience I've had and the people that I know, the experience they've had with the police, it's not been positive.
I do not think I could rely on them for my safety.
One of the first challenges for the Commissioner in his mission to rebuild trust is to persuade the Home Office to alter the rules to make it easier to get rid of rogue officers.
Yeah, on that, Simon, the Commissioner said it could take 3 years to get rid of some of these officers. Why such a long time?
Well, he's been explaining today just how his hands are tied. Normal employment laws don't apply to the police. That's why they're not allowed to go on strike. They come under what are known as police regulations. And Sir Mark says that leaves him in the nonsensical position of not being able to dismiss them. To do so involves lengthy and complex legal tribunals with lots of appeals. And that is something that the Commissioner is hoping the Home Secretary will now address. But for the moment, it seems that identifying the so-called bad apples might actually be the easy bit. Getting rid of them could be a whole lot trickier.
Yes. Simon, thank you. A soldier from the elite unit responsible for protecting the royal family has been jailed for 3 years for selling bullets to an undercover officer. Rajan Graham, who was a Lance Sergeant in the Coldstream Guards, pleaded guilty last year and was honourably discharged from the British Army. Graham was caught selling 300 9mm bullets for almost £6,000. And a shop owner in Chelsea has shared this CCTV of the terrifying moment a bus crashed into his business. The double-decker drove into the front of a bike shop on the King's Road at around 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. Network Rail are asking Londoners to check before they travel this Easter, as more than 600 engineering projects are carried out over the long weekend. The Gatwick Express won't run at all on Saturday and Sunday, and southern services into Victoria are also closed until the 10th of April. It's no better at Euston either, with the station closed altogether for 4 days. From there, our consumer editor Chris Choi sent this update.
Travel problems have become an unwelcome bank holiday tradition, and earlier I spoke to Network Rail about what we can expect this Easter. Why is it always Easter that seems to be targeted for this kind of disruption? Some passengers I've spoken to think that you don't take this kind of travel seriously enough. It's important to people.
The engineering work we're doing is absolutely vital to improve the railway for the future. We absolutely get it's difficult for passengers. That's why we make our choices very, very carefully.
Well, let's have a look at the detail. First on rail, and Euston Station here, an important link, of course, to cities like Manchester and Glasgow. It will be completely closed for 4 days due to engineering work, and that means that trains will start and finish at Milton Keynes. Then there'll be a bus link to take you over to Bedford, and then that final link to the St Pancras line. Also, the Oxford to Didcot line is closed, with train firms saying only attempt that route if your journey is absolutely essential. Let's flip over and have a look at the roads. Some congestion expected there. In fact, 17 million journeys expected over Easter. Now, National Highways have said that they've done their best. They've actually lifted about 1,400 roadworks to try and ease the situation. The overarching message is check before you set out.
Chris Choi at Euston there. The funeral of one of the last black World War II veterans will take place at an historic church in May so that hundreds of people can attend. Flight Sergeant Peter Brown died alone in his home in Maida Vale at the age of 96 last December. A service to remember his life was due to take place at a small chapel in Mortlake, but so many people asked to go that it had to be postponed. Westminster Council have now arranged for it to be held in St Clement Danes, the RAF Central Church, which they say will be a send-off worthy of his life story. Now, there are some things in life that just go together. Salt and pepper, Ant and Dec, Lampard and Chelsea. This afternoon it was confirmed that the former Blues captain will be returning to the club for the 3rd time, this time as interim manager. But after an unsuccessful stint as coach in 2020, will things be different this time? Rags Martell has been finding out.
Hello. Hello. At Chelsea, a football resurrection. The second coming of Frank Lampard, the manager.
It's a pretty easy decision for me. This is my club in terms of my playing career and having managed, coached here before. So I have a lot of emotions and feelings towards the club. And obviously I've been on a different path since I left Chelsea. But to come back in a time where the club have asked me to come and take the role, of course that's the most important thing.
We got Super Frankie Lampard.
At Stamford Bridge, exactly some fans are already celebrating and singing his name.
Chelsea's going to win the Champions League again. Best thing ever.
Why?
Because the club's got no coach at the moment, and he's going to come back and install that culture, what we need.
The king is back. Lampard is here, Chelsea legend, the best player we've ever had at Chelsea, and he's going to steer us through to the Champions League final, win it, and then we'll all move on and he'll get that legacy status back again.
Do you think Frank Lampard should become manager permanently?
Yeah.
Really? Why?
Because he's good.
I wouldn't say he's a bad manager, but being a great player doesn't make you a great manager.
Long-range effort, stunning goal from Frank Lampard.
As a player, they called him Super Frank. winning 13 trophies. But as a manager, he was sacked, winning nothing and leaving the club 9th in the table.
What's your reaction to Frank Lampard coming back?
Well, I think it's both genius and ludicrous at the same time, because the bar is set pretty low at the moment. Chelsea 11th in the league, they have not been winning games, they can't score any goals. It could be a good thing to perhaps not so much galvanise the squad, but give everyone a bit of a lift that they need right now, because it just seems to be one bit of bad news after the next.
Hello, Jonathan Kidd of the Chelsea Fancast.
Jonathan Kidd first saw Chelsea play as a baby in 1955. He now hosts the Chelsea Fancast podcast.
The main thing is we love Frank, so we'll all get behind him, but none of us is expecting much. We don't expect anything will happen. Just as long as they play differently and score a few goals. A goal would be nice, you know.
And if you win the Champions League?
Well, you know, stranger things have happened with Chelsea, you know.
Frank Lampard isn't expected to stay beyond the summer, but this interim appointment gives the club more time to find a permanent successor.
The German, Julian Nagelsmann, remains the favourite to take on the job full-time, but he wasn't available now. And the former Barca boss, Luis Enrique, was in London this week and met with the new American owners. For now, Lampard is back. His results will decide if Super Frank can reclaim his name. Brax Martel, ITV News, Stamford Bridge.
Next tonight, campaigners have handed a petition into Parliament calling for the government to keep its promises to the victims of the Windrush scandal. 3 years ago, Priti Patel accepted all 30 recommendations of the Windrush Lessons Review, but the new Home Secretary has said she's dropping 3 of them. Anton Allen reports.
I was illegal. You know, I used to walk around the streets thinking that somebody's going to put their hand on my shoulder. I used to have nightmares. I would, you know, thinking of deportation at that time.
Michael's trauma is shared by many survivors of the Windrush scandal, each with their own tragic story. Auckland came here in 1959 as a 4-year-old boy from the Caribbean, but after paying taxes for decades, when he went to renew his passport that was stolen, he was told he wasn't a British citizen.
It was a trauma, of course, and it stopped me dead in my tracks.
The quest for justice has united over 53,000 people that have signed a petition calling for the government to implement all of the Windrush scandal report's recommendations. A government watchdog in 2020 found institutional ignorance and thoughtlessness were partly to blame for the Windrush scandal and made 30 recommendations to improve the office overseeing immigration. This year, the Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, announced 3 recommendations would be dropped. The commitment to establish a Migrants Commissioner gone. There will be no increase in powers for the Independent Chief Inspector of Borders and Immigration. And the promise to hold reconciliation events with the Windrush community also dropped. The Windrush scandal survivors say they are fighting for those that died before receiving justice. Michael came here as a boy and dedicated his life to help children before the threat of deportation made him suicidal.
You know, I mean, how many people have died that I've known who I used to campaign with, you know? And, you know, it's not been resolved as far as, for me, I still carry them in my heart.
Glenda was only 3 months old when her family made London her home. Believing she was a British citizen, she raised her own children and worked in the NHS, but the scandal ended her career in healthcare.
They basically sacked me, gave me a letter in writing, gross misconduct, because you haven't got the right to live or work in this country.
The mental strain of fighting to be acknowledged by the Home Office impacted Glenda's family and made her feel like she was a burden to her son, who also could not get a British passport despite being born here.
I contemplated suicide, where I literally had woke up and said, if I take tablets, then perhaps it might be better for him.
The petition handed to Downing Street was organised by the Black Equity Organisation, the UK's first black civil rights charity. If the government ignore the petition today and they go ahead and don't implement all of the Windrush recommendations, just what message do you think that sends to black Britons?
That all of the work our elders did when they came here 75 years ago and more, and less, to rebuild this country was in vain.
The Windrush scandal was exposed in 2018. The campaigners say they won't give up until everyone is properly compensated. Antoine Allen, ITV News.
OK, looking ahead to later in the year, and our next guest is going to be dancing up a storm this autumn, an emerald storm to be accurate. Hollywood and West End star Adam Garcia is bringing his Irish tap show to venues around London, and he's going to be starring in 42nd Street too. So he is a very, very busy man, but he found time to come in and see us. Hello, Adam.
Hey there, thank you for having me.
Tell us about this show then, because you're not starring in it, you're just the creator, the choreographer, the co-writer.
Just a creator. No, yeah, this one I won't be dancing in. Luckily, I've got much younger people to throw their legs around. It's it's an Irish and tap dancing narrative, like a ballet, if you will. But it does chart the story. It's very modern. It has modern music, and it's about this group of bohemians who have this performance in this bar that run this troupe, and they're Irish dancers. And these group of tap dancers come into their world, and there's a collision of culture, and can they meet in the middle, or will they be ever, rent asunder?
Oh, so there is a real story behind this incredible choreography that we can see on our screens now.
Yes, there is. I'm a huge ballet fan, and ballets, you follow a narrative, there's a story, and I didn't want to create something which was just, sort of routines after routines. I was much more interested in seeing if we could craft this sort of story and about people and people creating things together. So
we sort of see in the West End that people go to what they are familiar with, the jukebox musicals and the musicals based on shows. How hard is it selling this kind of shows and getting people involved in dance like this? Because it's slightly out of the norm, isn't it?
It is, but we have people like Sir Matthew Bourne, who create wonderful dance narratives. Ashley Banjo and Diversity create amazing street narratives. Zoo Nation do great stuff with that sort of thing. So there is scope for it, and of course, things like Riverdance have allowed the public all over the world to see how amazing Irish dance is. So to be able to combine Irish with my sort of tap, which is much sort of modern and hoofed based, it's really exciting.
OK, well, we're sold. As I said earlier, in June, you're coming to Sadler's Wells with 42nd Street. That's a good old song and dance show, isn't it?
See, that's the classic sort of tap dancing thing, and a show that, as a dancer and a tap dancer, I've loved since it was released in the 80s. But yeah, going to the home of dance in London, which is Sadler's Wells, putting on a massive big tap dancing show, it's really excited to be a part of that.
Can you believe it's almost 25 years since Coyote Ugly? For so many of us, a coming-of-age film.
It's one of those films that keeps on giving. I think I meet people who weren't around or wouldn't have been able to see it in cinemas, and yet they know about it and they watch it. It's a sort of a hand-me-down film, and it was a surprise when it did that, but it's a great honour to be a part of that.
Wonderful. Emerald Storm is all around London, Dartford, Basildon, High Wycombe, Clacton, Radlett. Good luck with the show, Adam. Thank you. Have a lovely bank holiday weekend.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The King's coronation is just 1 month away, and across the country, people are gearing up for the occasion. At Boyne Grove Day Services, a centre for people with learning difficulties in Maidenhead, they're putting the final touches on a life-size sculpture of a lion, which will take pride of place in Windsor Town Centre. Mel Blaw's been there for a sneak preview.
Here at Boyne Grove Day Services, the final touches are being made to a sculpture fit for a king. Standing an impressive 6 feet tall and in keeping with His Majesty's passion for the environment, this lion has been built using twigs, pine cones and other natural materials.
People have gone out and collected all sorts of materials, collecting bracken from the woodland areas and collecting pine cones, you name it, they've been out there foraging, collecting bits of moss from the car park that's fallen off people's roofs.
Users of the day centre have spent the last 6 weeks gathering materials and making the sculpture in parts. Community Life centres across the Royal Borough and Wokingham have been helping with the build. The lion's shield painted by people who have dementia.
Jackie, tell me what you've been doing to help out.
I'm doing that, painting it.
And what will that bit be used for?
For the thing when they're holding it up. Hold it up like that.
And how much fun has it been?
Been good fun doing it, yeah.
In celebrating the King's coronation, we're celebrating the skills and talents that the people that we support have. So whether you have a learning disability or you're on a particular journey, it's not what people can't do, it's all about what people can do. And that's part of what we do on a day-to-day basis that we really want to share with everybody.
As part of the celebrations, the centre is also hosting a party, and to ensure everyone can join in on the fun, they've been learning to sing God Save the King using Makaton. The lion is due to go on display in Windsor Town Centre, where it's hoped it will take pride of place during the coronation celebrations. Mel Blaw, ITV News, Maidenhead.
On to the weather, and we started the week with so much promise, didn't we? All that sunshine that Sally told us would be here, but now as we head into the long bank holiday weekend, it's looking a little bit mixed. Here she is now with the forecast.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles. Car, charger and energy.
Hello, a very good evening to you. Hope you're keeping well. This could be one of my favourite photos so far this year. Look at that, a duck in full flight. I don't know why that tickles me. It just does. And also having a great time, whatever the weather, this gorgeous horse. So thank you for those. Now, as we head through the start of the weekend, some decent weather for you. Dry, bright, there's sunshine around. Also some cloud, though. In the sunshine, feeling quite nice and mild. Probably going to turn more unsettled on Sunday night and into Monday when we could well get some showers. Now, the air mass chart shows this quite well. So we've got high pressure building into tomorrow, and you can see these warm yellows and oranges moving in. Our temperatures probably peaking on Sunday, but into Monday you can see this front moving across us, and that is going to bring a bit of rain with it as well. That's how it's looking at the moment. Do keep an eye on the forecast. So the showers from today easing off and fading off out of the way to give us quite a lot of clear skies outside tonight. So the temperatures will drop down. We're not expecting anything too cold, but there might in the coolest spots in the countryside just be a touch of patchy frost first thing tomorrow morning. But a decent start to Good Friday. We have got some lovely sunshine around, quite prolonged periods. There is cloud in the mix though, perhaps a little bit more in the east, and there'll be cloud elsewhere bubbling up during the day. In that sunshine, temperatures reaching highs of 14 to 16, so feeling quite pleasant, a little bit cooler out of it, and perhaps a little bit cooler at the coast too, with a bit of an onshore breeze. And then into the evening, if you've got plans, well, a really nice evening to come with your sunset at 7:45. So a nice day into Saturday as well, perhaps a bit cloudier at the coast, and it might turn hazier through Sunday. The temperatures, as I said, should peak then before things are more unsettled into Monday. That's how it's looking for now. I'll see you later on. Cheerio.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles.
Well, whatever the weather, whatever you're doing, enjoy the long bank holiday weekend. Charlene is here next with the ITV Evening News. From all of us, thank you for watching and bye-bye.